Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today is a full-time illustrator and character designer who loves some good classic cartoons. Welcome the man behind many cartoon studios, Manny Aguilera. What's going on, man?
How's it going, brother?
How you been today?
Fantastic, dude. Fantastic. Working on new stuff as always, and just running around like a crazy person trying to get everything done.
Oh, I know how that is. So I really do appreciate you having taking a lunch break with me. What's your go-to lunch or sandwich?
Been giving this a lot of thought. The go-to sort of everyday sandwich is an Italian BMT pub sub on that crusty bread that has like the little seeds in it or little stuff in it, which is really nice. But when I'm feeling fancy, I like a prosciutto, and it's essentially like a sandwich that's like a caprese salad. So the mozzarella, the tomatoes, all that stuff with the prosciutto on like a nice crusty bread.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it. You really can't go wrong. You really that's always a good one to have.
Yeah.
I definitely like that. So tell people a little bit about your style, how you got, where your love for character design came from. Tell folks a little bit about that.
As a kid, I was fascinated by cartoons growing up in the 80s, and sitting there trying to replicate a lot of the stuff that I was seeing, trying to figure out how it was made and how they're putting their stuff together and how they're doing all this stuff. And I just dove down a rabbit hole. The kids call it hyperfixation now. That was just how I spent my childhood. I would like read history of animation stuff, Warner Brothers history, comics, cartoon history. I would surround myself with comic books and all this stuff, trying to draw what I was seeing and failing to copy what I was seeing. But that is how my style developed, I guess.
Okay.
I
like that. So what did cartoons inspired you then? What were your favorite cartoons growing up?
A lot of Warner Brothers stuff, some really old Disney stuff, and a lot of the cartoons of the day. So Ninja Turtles and all the other stuff that was coming out, that was new stuff that was coming out. Anything that was cartoony, I felt way closer to than anything that was like super detailed and super anatomically correct.
Okay.
A lot of the comic books in my day were like Jim Lee and the Image guys and all this other stuff, and I didn't see myself there.
Yeah.
Was
it more, you were more like Ren and Stimpy style?
I liked Ren and Stimpy, but then I found a handful of comic book creators that were also like weirdly cartoony, but surviving in that mainstream. So guys like Sam Keith were really interesting to me. He did the Max. So if you remember like Liquid TV, the big purple guy with the teeth, he was like weirdly cartoony, but also did like action stuff. A lot of like really cool, anything sort of cartoony was interesting, and I had to try to figure it out. I was very important in middle school because the one thing I could draw were Ninja Turtles. I could draw them really well, and that was a bit of status when you're 12 and 13, and that sort of thing. So that was always cool.
I like it. I was gonna say because I was like, it seems like based on the time frame that you're using, it's similar to where I was. So I was wondering if you were into like all the stuff like if Mask or Silverhawks and Bionic 6.
I watched all that stuff. I watched all that stuff, and I loved like Thundercats and Tiger Sharks, and I loved all that stuff. But I connected to it enough, but always like, oh, okay, well, this is really realistic, and I can't figure out how to draw like this. Yeah. So, The cartoonier for me, the cartoonier the better for a lot of stuff. Like I liked all that stuff, GI Joe and Thundercats and like Transformers especially had a huge impact on me. Um, but I didn't connect as much, I think, to that stuff.
And that would make sense because a lot of the stuff that you like, tell folks a little bit about some of the stuff that you aim to do when you're trying to create, characters, because you kind of do a mix of like, new nostalgic, so tell people a little bit about that, kind of like where you grab your inspirations from when you're creating some of the characters that you do.
A lot of my stuff now pulls from way before I was born. So the kids call it Cuphead style. I know it as like rubber hose.
Hmm.
So it's like the big, pie eye with the little slice missing stuff, and big, rubber hose arms and stuff like that. And um, I studied a lot of the old like model sheets and a lot of the old animation stuff, and kind of like interpret a lot of that stuff. So I'll do like the white gloves, and I'll do some of the eyes stuff, and I'll do a little bits and pieces of it. Um, but when I'm doing something new for myself, I'll take that and go, okay, so how can I put this through my own lens? And I'll make, stylistic choices that have that flavor of the nostalgic, but always pulling for new.
Okay.
I've done a lot of work with um, corporate clients doing mascot stuff. I've done some like hat embroidery stuff that's very sort of team mascot looking kind of stuff. Um, I understand. I've done a lot of work. I've worn a lot of hats. I say that I was made more by accident than on purpose. I've done everything from embroidery to T-shirts to car wrap stuff. So I know enough about those things to say I can design something for somebody that I know will work.
Yeah.
So that kind of informed my style a lot. It's very sort of pared down, lots of thick lines when I'm illustrating, big shapes and things like that. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff.
So just give me a little bit of like, so obviously I knew you had a love and a fascination for art as a kid, and and drawing. So like, did you tell people, give people a little bit, was it like, did you go to school, did you just kind of like, I just, this is what I want to do, and you just kind of, school, didn't go to school but like learned, or how did you like, kind of like, besides doing all the different preparation of like, being just super hyper focused in it, where you did you take any additional studies or anything else to kind of improve or to kind of grow your skills?
Yeah, so I got lucky when I was growing up. A friend of my mom's was um, an artist, and she knew of a group of old Cuban artists that had started a class, started teaching classes um, near where we lived, and the guy said, "Look, we don't take we don't take kids your age, but I'm told that you're very quiet, that you're very like reserved, that you know how to like actually behave yourself. So we're gonna put you through it, and if you're good and you like it, then you can stay and just be cool." Oh, okay. So I learned very sort of classical technique stuff, and they took me through like charcoal and different media and classical inking stuff and watercolor and all this stuff. So it was the education that nobody gets anymore in art.
Yeah.
Um, and then when it came time for school, um, I wanted to make comic books, so I figured I'll go to where they teach you how to make comic books, and I went to Savannah College of Art and Design,
Yeah.
and did and managed a whole year in their sequential art program before figuring out that I was unprepared for living by myself and taking these classes and doing this stuff. I came home back to Miami with my tail between my legs, and we got lucky. We remembered that we had paid some money to like hold a spot for me at another like local trade school, and there were two paths put in front of me, and one was computer animation and one was graphic design. And we walked through computer animation, and I saw people wearing blankets, like sitting over their computers. One guy was like, "I have been here for 9 hours, and on the 7.5 hour mark, my program crashed. So the 2 seconds of animation that I was rendering died." And I said, "Okay, so graphic design." Yeah, no,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
okay,
No.
not cool, not interesting. 3D animation in 2000, 99, 2000, 99 was when I was originally walking through the school. Uh, was a scary cave dwelling kind of place, and I was terrified of it. So I went and did graphic design, thinking, well, graphic design, I should be able to get some illustration work somehow here. And, I learned a bunch of stuff as much as I could to make myself a good designer. At the same time, like, okay, so I can use this part of this tool for illustration. I can use this part of this tool for illustration. I can make stuff with this. I can do
Yeah.
stuff with this. So whereas some people were fixing photos, I can make my comics. I can make my stuff. Um, and it was to this day how I learn best. I can take stuff apart and understand stuff because this is the part that I want to learn to make my stuff, and mastering that has given me work.
Okay. I like that.
You
I
know,
like that. During that time, did you end up creating a comic?
um, let's see. During school, I had not. Um, I did a lot of illustration stuff. I worked for some T-shirt design places and did some T-shirt illustration for them, and I'd done a bunch of other stuff. And then a friend of mine, I had never been to like an actual big comic convention until just after I left school. And some friends said, "Okay, we're going to go up to Orlando. We're going to do MegaCon just to go." They were not artists, my friends, or anything. So we're just going to go hang out. Okay, cool. So I went, and they had artist tables. This was like early days. This was early days, brother. Early days, like 2002 something, 2003. Um, like a table. They made you pay for the table to make sure that you showed up, not because it
Yep.
was costing anybody anything.
Yeah.
It was a very sort of informal thing. Artists were there, maybe selling prints, but mostly showing their portfolios and doing all this other stuff, and showing, selling mini comics and doing all kinds of stuff. And then there were the companies and all this other business, and it was really cool. And then the next year, my friend said, "No, we don't want to go. We're good." And I asked my then girlfriend, I was like, "Hey, do you want to go?" And surprisingly, she said yes. And I was like, I don't want to go unless I have something to show for it. And we were like a month and a half out from before the show was going to take place. And she said, "Fuck it, make something." The easiest thing in the
Let's
world.
go.
Let's
Yeah. Let's go.
let's go make something. So we we made a comic. I came up with a name because I'm very I love a good name. A good name is so important. We've had this conversation I think a few times.
Yeah.
Names are so key. Like the right title, the right thing. So we came up with a thing called Beware of Doug. And it was I was pitching it as Teen Wolf 10 years later. So 20 something in the workplace werewolf where nobody knows what he is, essentially.
I
Uh,
like that.
and we did 12 pages, soup to nuts, like name from nothing to name to 12 pages in like that month and a half, figuring everything out because I'd never made a mini comic, I'd never made a zine. How the hell are we going to figure this out? What are we going to do? And we had this little black and white copybook, and it wasn't like we had a table or anything, but I made a bunch and put them in a mailman bag, and we walked around the show. And when I talked with anybody I thought was interesting, I handed them a book. And yeah, I was done. My goose was cooked. Like I was like, this is I don't want to be anywhere else. Like I don't understand. This is the best feeling ever. Like being an artist and saying I'm not saying I don't have to say the words I'm an artist. I can hand you something.
Yeah.
Made this. Here you go.
Yep.
We're peers now on some version of peers now. That was the best feeling in the world. That nothing compares to that.
I love it, dude.
Yeah.
I love it. And then you've been hooked ever since then.
Yeah, I did MegaCon and a few other shows, Heroes Con and a few things, like 15 years, something stupid like that. Like it was, we went a long time, and then we started hating the scene, and I started noticing that I really hated the scene, and my wife was like, you don't like this anymore, and I said, no, I don't. So we stopped, and this was 2016,
Okay.
2016, and we've done some stuff since. I worked for a tabletop gaming company. I did some stuff for a few places that asked me to do the cons and whatever. Um, but I haven't done one I haven't gone back to doing shows since about that point.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but
What I was gonna ask you, since you said you've done some stuff with characters and design for different brands and stuff, how can the use of a character help a business get noticed and build customer loyalty?
um, there is no comparison. If you build a good character, it will serve you better than a human spokesperson. It will serve you better than just not having a welcoming presence into your store. It will serve you so well. I don't care if it's a ramen shop, I don't care what it is that you sell. If you want to add warmth and add that come into the store experience, a mascot is unparalleled. The Japanese know it. We use it for cereals. I don't know why we stopped using it for everything like we did in the 50s. Every time somebody who is a spokesperson for a brand, like a real person spokesperson for a brand or something, like every time one of these guys implodes because inevitably they're human beings,
Yep.
I'm like, I make a thing. Let's make a thing. Let's make a thing. You know, um, and it doesn't necessarily have to be cartoony. Geico does a great job with a realistic gecko, which is shocking. Uh,
Yeah.
but you know, you gotta find your thing. I specialize in the weird, so ramen bowl with a face, like a happy ramen bowl, like come eat me kind of mascot. I do a lot of stuff with food stuff. So I get that for certain food shops, a fox or some kind of animal makes no sense. And a cartoony human I find to be very sort of weird and not interesting. Like
Yeah.
I've seen these guys that are like, you see them on clip art sites at this point, but like the random red-headed handyman for your thing. I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we being that weirdly specific?
Yeah.
I don't get that.
I like that. Do you have any must-have characteristics a mascot or character should have?
Um, it depends on the field that you're in. Um, Obviously, food stuff has to be appetizing. It can't
Mm-hmm.
be, unless you're going for a gross out dining experience. It has to be appetizing. It has to kind of make sense on some level. If you're doing like a sports thing, the best advice I ever got was they shouldn't be mean looking. They should be determined looking, which is kind of close.
Yeah.
That 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 like Ninja Turtles grimace thing
Yeah.
isn't mean as much as it should look determined and like they're goal oriented. Uh, different things have different uses. Um, I'm a big fan of even on some level like leaving something faceless. Like if you're doing like an item, you don't necessarily have to give everything a face if you're giving it other like human characteristics. So like legs or like hands or something.
Yeah.
You don't always need a face necessarily. It's a sort of a Venn diagram. Like if you're doing nothing else, give it a face. If you're doing a bunch of other stuff, you might not need it. It might not need an expression.
Got it.
You figure it out. Um, I go for bold. I like bold lines, colors that stand out, that sort of thing. And I always tell people it's what animation calls an expression sheet, which is just multiples of the same character doing different poses with different
Yeah.
expressions and things. Um, don't do just one. Lace potato chips. Don't make just one, because if you've got something that you want to put out on social media, one pose repeated looks horrible.
Yeah.
Like let's do a couple. Everything has its uses. I'm a big fan of making patterns for people for their packaging. Well, you're well aware of the joys of a good piece of wrapping paper for your
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
You know, make it feel like Christmas morning, dude. Like, let's work together on something and make it feel awesome for the person who's unwrapping their thing. If what you do is ship out stuff or uh, custom made takeout containers for restaurants.
Tape, even the tape, like if you have a custom tape,
Yep.
you can do. Yeah, there's so many different elements that you can have the personalization or even be able to include. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, dude. Make it feel awesome. Make it feel. This is a piece of packaging. Uh, my buddy, the company name is Dapper Notes.
Yep.
I created a. Let me see if I can get it. Okay, so that friendly face in there um, is the headshot that I did for him, and what he makes are these little pocket notebooks. So you get this in the mail, custom printed, and then you have to untab it all, and then sitting in there is the notebook, and then he includes the little card. So this is the little character that I came up with for him, and it's a little hard to see on camera, but essentially he is a notebook with like little feet. He's got a little cane because it's dapper, and he's
Yep.
got the little hat and the whole deal. I love like messing around and being corny and being sort of esoteric with stuff, and finding that magical mix, because that's what's going to make you stand out. You know?
That's what you remember. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally get that. So I know you said you like Warner Brother and Disney characters and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Are there any particular ones that you kind of like because of style and stuff like that you kind of lean towards or you kind of like based on those characters?
I love Oswald. Um, I am a big fan of, there's like this early to middle period Looney Tunes stuff when I think Bugs had been fully formed and a few of the characters have been fully formed, but it's kind of early in their development at the same time. The recent new Looney Tunes show that they did for that premieres on HBO Max actually used that style. So like uh, Elmer Fudd, but it's Elmer Fudd with the not as gigantic head, and he's got like a red nose. So it's like it's kind of a funky spot in their visual development. I love that stuff. And I'm a big Astro Boy fan. I am absolutely in love with like Astro Boy, and because of Astro Boy, like Mega Man, and that style of like robot,
Yeah,
stuff. Because that was a big part of my childhood too. I think so that kind of stuck with me.
I love that, dude.
Yeah.
Those are some fun ones. Yeah, I'm always kind of curious on where some of the inspiration and the thoughts come from when you're creating, and then where you're getting it from. Um, as you're coming up with ideas, I always love to know where are you keeping these ideas, because obviously not only are you working for doing client stuff, but you also do your own pins, and art and stuff like that to sell. So like when you're coming up with these characters and all that stuff, where are you keeping all this stuff? You're like your designs, do you like, is it usually like start off with like a doodle with like you're just like a pen and paper, or are you going like on a computer? What's the process usually like?
Right now, since about 2020, I picked up a program called Fresco through Adobe, and their pencil tool. Again, the most basic. It's a very expansive, very lovely program that can do vector work and all kinds of stuff. It is my favorite sketchbook. It is a very expensive sketchbook tool. Um, I iterate one on top of the other on top of the other until I get where I'm going. I scribble the hell out of it. Um, I'm a very big fan of starting loose and getting my ideas down on paper,
Yeah,
and just kind of um, build it up from there, and I'll bring in photos of items and other things, because as much as I love cartoons, I'm a big believer in starting with the reality of the thing. So if I'm doing like a snake or a bird or something for a client that's a specific real thing, I
yeah,
will bring in those. I will bring in photos of those things, as well as maybe one or two cartoon references. But the goal is always like, no, I'm looking at this photo of this snake or bird, and there's an actual like curve in the beak or something going on that I'm picking up on that everybody else who's just drawn a generic snake hasn't found. So I'm going to find that. I want to find that thing to make it stand out,
yeah.
you know. So yeah, I start off in Fresco, do a lot of stuff in Fresco, and then my nest is Illustrator. So everything I do is vector. I have a bunch of custom brushes that I built up for myself over the years, and a specific way of working, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah,
What
that's
I'm just always kind of curious, since you deal with so many different clients and stuff like that. What's like, if you had to give advice to a client when a client comes to you, like I'm assuming you have some that kind of just will just come over and be like, well, I want you to make a mascot, and they don't really give you too much of it. So like I'm kind of curious, like, is there advice or things that you noticed that come from clients that, something that, like, if you, let's say, like someone like myself, I deal with a lot of designers. What's some advice you would give for someone who wants to start working with one? Like, let's say they need a logo or need something from you. What are some things or thoughts that you appreciate them providing? Because I mean, obviously they want to use you and your creative parts, but at the same time, you don't want to just go on a wild goose chase either.
Yeah, as much information as I can get. I like a Zoom. I like a Zoom meeting where they show me pictures of their, say, restaurant or location. Um, Give me, if you've got colors, give me those colors. If you're looking for a mascot, send me pictures of stuff you like. Specifically, send me pictures of stuff you like. Don't send me pictures of stuff you don't like. That makes no. That's never. Dude, 24 years as a designer, and I gotta tell you, never once has pictures of what I don't like. That doesn't help me. That doesn't help me. That gets me thinking about how cool it would be if your logo looked like this, but you hate this. Don't do that. I don't know why people do that. But pictures of stuff you like, pictures, in this case, if there's a cartoon that you liked, give me that too. Maybe there's a thing that I can turn your camping store into this thing and kind of find a way through that forest.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, Help me help you get there.
Yeah.
Because if it's client work, that's what that is. Help me help you get there. Um, and I'm always really clear with people, like, the sketch process is the sketch process. We keep it loose. Once you approve that sketch, we're good. You know, we'll put an arm up, an arm down, or something like that. But if you want me to turn, you know, if you want me to turn, I don't know, a bear into a penguin, we're suddenly talking about a new project.
Yeah.
And I am old enough that I am not subtle about it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, there are jobs that I'll work with an AD or with somebody who brings me in, which I love because I get stuff as directly from the client as possible. Like, they'll give me direct stuff from the client, but they get to filter what I say because I am of a certain age and I'm kind of done.
And you could be kind of unfiltered.
It's a little bit. It's a
Yeah.
little bit. It's a little bit. I don't have time for the stupid. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you're paying me to be a surgeon. Don't sit there telling me stupid things that I don't need to hear. You know, let's get to the point.
What do you do for fun when you're not designing and creating characters?
Um, I don't know how to relax.
Okay.
So last year, my personal sales and stuff was like at a lull. I keep hearing from other people that the pin market kind of dropped out, and I was dumb, and most of my inventory was pins. So um, I took the big scary monster that was learning 3D, um, and I took him out from under the bed and said, "Let's dust you off and figure out how to make you work." Um, Somebody introduced me to a program called Nomad for the iPad, which is just a sculpting program. Which, as someone who tried to learn Blender and deleted the camera and then turned the program off and said, I don't want this. I deeply just don't want this. I don't understand why people want this. Um, I started messing with it. So for about a year, I've been sort of doing what I call fishing. So it's technically my hobby. I'm not trying to make a ton of money on it or anything, but so like I mentioned before, like one of my favorite characters is Astro Boy,
Yep.
and he's got fun sticky uppy hair, and he's a happy little boy. But I am obsessed with, like, one part nostalgia that exists, one part me, one part like other things, and a little bit of magic. So um, I started thinking this and made my way here. So
Okay.
this is my little TV robot who bears a weird, striking resemblance to me. Uh, but he's got a TV as his.
Vintage looking TV. I see a
Yeah,
little Optimus Prime kind of inspiration there,
yeah.
maybe.
There's a little bit of Optimus Prime. There's a little bit of sort of Jetsons,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a little bit of Mega Man in there, and
Yep.
a little bit of this and that, and um, a buddy of mine from the old Orlando Comic Con days helped me. Taught me how to articulate him so his arms and legs move and his little head moves side to side and all kinds of stuff. So this is the kind of stuff that I do for fun now. I learned ages ago that if you chase money, money runs faster from you. So I am, happily focused on learning 3D. I'm getting 3D prints made. I'm working with a gallery in San Antonio, like a toy focused gallery, and like showing pieces and whatever. And I'm slowly working my way through. I found a guy that I really like working with, that he's going to help me mold my pieces so that I can get like resin pour stuff done. But I'm not like, I'm gonna make so much money and I'm gonna sell so many. No, I'm gonna make like 15 of these things, and if they sell, they sell. If they don't, they don't. But I'm gonna get myself back behind a table and show them off, and mostly use that as an excuse to talk to other toy makers and talk to other people making stuff. And if I can pay for the trip, great. Like if I can get the trip paid for by what I make at the thing, fantastic. But I refuse to be like, why?
Yeah,
Why? We're adults. We have adult money. Let's fuck around and find out.
yeah.
And dude, if it works, great. I'm here for it. You know. But yeah. Um, somebody was asking me like why I make, because I ended up making a lot of robots. So he was the TV guy, and then recently I did what I call Mr. Gumball,
That's awesome.
you know, which was my first piece to be in the gallery. So I do a lot of robot stuff, and I'm working on. Um, okay, so we met at Creative South
Yes.
billions of years ago, back before we both had gray hair.
Yep. I have
Uh,
way more gray hair than you, by the way, but that's okay.
you have a gorgeous, sumptuous white gray beard. I
Yeah.
am jealous. I've
In
always wanted to
time,
be a real beard Santa.
it's
Uh,
gonna be. That's called stress. Is how my beard has become more
nice.
salt than pepper.
Yeah.
So yes.
So Creative South,
Yeah.
we give out stickers, right? One of the first year I went, I did a space sloth sticker. I did a space sloth holding on to a rocket, and I love that image. And then 1 year later, I had done another one where, if you remember the old astronaut portraits, they do like a portrait and they've got their helmet like under one arm
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So I'd done one of those, and I hadn't thought about it in ages. And then I got hit up. I got connected to a company called The Creatives, and they do Tops baseball card style trading cards with tops, like printed through tops. Very
Oh
professional,
wow.
beautiful pieces, but they are artist driven. They're each artist does, I think, 3 cards, and they're in like their 4th series. When they were doing the first one, my buddy, who was the guy running that, puts out a call on Instagram. This was in 2020, something like that. 2020, 2021. Puts out a call on Instagram. Hey guys, artists, your stuff is due. This is the absolute deadline for your stuff. I need your stuff like yesterday. So I answer back, do you mean to tell me? I am shocked because I've never heard this before. Do you mean to tell me that professional artists are blowing their deadlines? I am in shock, sir. I've never heard of such a thing. He said, yeah, real funny. Real funny. He hits me back 2 hours later. He says, if I gave you 2 days, 3 days to do 3 pieces no one has ever seen before from scratch, can you do it? I gulped down real hard and said yes. Like, like hung on to my table with both hands and said yes. So what I ended up doing as one of my cards was the space sloth in his astronaut suit, but with the visor up, and he's holding a coconut with a little umbrella, like a coconut drink,
Yeah.
and he's in a flamingo floaty, and that was one of
Okay.
my cards. Cut to however many years later, um, I had done. I was talking to somebody else, and somebody said, "Oh, the gallery's doing an all pink show." I said, mm-hmm. And I'd run through 1,000 ideas in my head, muscle figures, doing whatever. My wife says, "Don't be stupid. You know what you're going to end up doing." And I came up with the idea to do as a figure the flamingo floaty with the astronaut sloth and the whole deal. I sculpted that thing like crazy. Cut to this Friday. We're recording on a Wednesday. This Friday, the figure should be here. I've got to paint it and then send it to the gallery in San Antonio. But I'm doing an all pink version, and I'm doing a version. Yeah, I'm doing an all pink version where the flamingo floaty is like clear printed resin that glows in the dark, and I'm going to do some painted accents on it. And then the figure, I'm just going to spray it down with this matte pink spray paint, and then do some accented touches on it because the pieces are to be fully pink. And he's got a visor. It's very sort of toyetic. He's got a removable helmet. He's got a clear plastic visor, and he's holding the coconut with the umbrella drink. And then the floaty has sort of a robotic uh, slash spacey kind of feel to it. It's got like 1950s 1950s like 57 Chevy
Yeah.
fins on the back. It's got the whole deal. I'm very excited. And the same guy who printed it is helping me do like molding and resin pour versions of the figures. So we'll
Is the
have
goal to do, instead of a 3D printed one, to do more of a resin style versions?
Basically, yeah. I don't like the idea of selling the 3D prints. They're a little bit more delicate. They're a little bit more whatever. It's a nicer feel to have the resin figure.
What's your character's name? The robot, the TV robot. Your what do you call him?
I call him Junkatron.
Junkatron. Okay, I
I
like
call
it.
him Junkatron, and then I've got this little guy here. Um, he is sort of he's got shades of like Voltron and other stuff. He also sort of harkens back to the way that I grew up because I have cerebral palsy, and as a young kid I had to wear leg braces. So he's actually wearing leg braces. He's wearing a helmet that's very reminiscent of like somewhere between like Wile E. Coyote and a Voltron. And you remember Voltron's head
Yeah.
that had the sort of lion thing on there.
Yep.
It's very sort of somewhere between because it's like a cartoony version of his face. It's like Wile E. Coyote and Voltron sort of had a kid. So we're gonna do some of these. I'm very proud of the idea because he's got these leg braces on, and I augmented the leg braces. He's got little on the foot part of where the leg braces are, there's like little fangs that come up, so he's like a little monster kid.
Yeah.
Um, and and we'll have some of him as well. And I'm talking to a lot of my artist buddies to paint up some and to have at the table and things like that. Um, so that's all.
I love it, dude.
That's what I'm
Dude,
excited about right now. Like it's gonna cost me an arm and a leg, and I really couldn't care less. Like
yeah,
it's
because
not.
you're enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the thing. I am not ready to be a professional 3D
Yeah,
sculptor, but um, yeah, I'm having a blast, man.
I love it, man. That's awesome.
You know,
What advice would you give someone for wanting to start something?
um, start, jump in head first. Like the worst advice, you'd think it's the worst advice, but don't put yourself in physical harm, but also be kind of dumb about it. Like just kind of jump in and see what happens. Because if it's get a table, whatever. If it's like get some pins made because you think that you have a really fun design for a pin, make it. Make it. Do your look into it a little bit, do your research, but just jump in. Don't be scared. Don't think about the market. Don't think about whatever, because no one knows. No one knows anything. Anybody who says that they know anything, they're lying.
I
Like
love that.
I love a guru. It's people when somebody says that they're a guru of something, they're just telling you that they're bullshit. They're just telling you. If you run across somebody who's running a successful business and says I have no clue, that's your guy. That's who you talk to. That's who you sit there with. That's who you're like. He's like, you and I both know a bunch of guys who are like, I don't know. I keep having to buy a freaking warehouse every couple of years because I outgrow the warehouse, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but it's going.
Yeah.
That's the dude you hitch your wagon to. That's the guy that you talk to. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the
No, man.
guy whose goal is I want to make sure and see my kids, and I want to not hate what I do. You are my god, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's have a cup of coffee and figure out what the hell you're doing.
I love that, dude. I love it. Where can people follow you? Where can people see the stuff you're creating? Maybe do some purchasing of the stuff you're creating. I'm gonna put it in the show notes, but where can they, as you're listening to this and they're like scrolling on, they're like, oh, let me see a little bit more about what Manny's doing. Where can they follow you on social?
So social media, pretty much my only social media right now is Manny Cartoon Studio on Instagram. And it's the one that has the little orange icon on it. And then to buy stuff, I still have my Shopify that has all of my pins on there for sale, as well as some apparel stuff and some different things. I would suggest you sign up for the mailing list because I am very sparing when I send stuff out. But I'm going to be sending stuff out for some figures, as well as a few other pieces of merch that I'm going to be working on. Um, yeah, working on a summer drop with some interesting, fun pieces that have the astronaut sloth on the flamingo. And yeah, so you'll be able to pick them up as a toy, but all like in super limited quantities, but also like T-shirts and a few other things. So like just in time for summer.
Yeah.
You know,
I love it, man.
yeah, dude.
I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and share your story. I love what you're creating and what you're doing. I always enjoy our DMs when we talk about different things. So I definitely appreciate it. That's our show for today. Thank you so much to Manny Aguilera from Manny Cartoon Studios for being on. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe, tell your friends. Obviously, if you want to, check out my stuff, check out my brand, Deli Fresh Threads. Make sure that obviously sandwich selfies are always appreciated. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.